So as you come in, just wanted to let you know that the typing is not super large. So if you actually want to see the slides, moving forward may be helpful. If you don't want to see the slides, then in the back is perfect. Peter, I don't know where the presentation went. What app? It just timed out. Is there an app that we were using to? Yeah, because I keep dropping it. Is it too loud or is it okay? Okay. Whenever you want to start, should I just go ahead? Okay. In the name of the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit, one God, amen. Thank you so much for coming to this presentation, and thank you for inviting me. I just have a little disclaimer. All the announcements and the priests made it seem like I'm going to give you tickets to heaven in this presentation. I'm not doing that. It is an important topic. There could be something more important, but I'm very glad that you came. This has become a passion of mine, has become my new mission in life, and today's topic is part of it. What I'm going to talk about Thursday on pornography is actually very important. I'll tell you how I got inspired. In April of this year, there were a number of churches that were putting on a conference about pornography. And it was a major conference. About 900 church leaders went, and it was mind-blowing about how big the problem is and how little churches are doing to combat it. When I asked my priest, how big is the problem of pornography, he said it is the biggest problem in the church. So I know it might sound surprising to some, but not surprising to many. So today I'm going to talk to you as parents. And so I will be focusing on the parenting aspect of this. Before I show you my first slide, I want you to just take a minute to think, what is it that you desire for your children? Just take a minute. What is it that you think about for your kids? I know there's some parents who think that somehow through the conception of their children, their child is chosen to play in European Soccer League and they're going to be the greatest. And so you're spending all your time taking them to travel soccer. And some of them want your kids to be doctors or neuroscientists or computer people, and you have these aspirations for all that. But I would imagine that most of you, this is probably the most exciting thing that you want for your children, right? Everyone wants their kids, and for those of you who've been married in the last 10 years, your parents have been telling you for 20 years, when are you going to have this day? right? So this is an exciting day. This is what we want. Do you ever think about this? My wife has worried about who my kids are going to marry since they were 2. Now this is great, but as you can see, the grandparents want hopefully this. Okay, wrong church, sorry. Hopefully one day that we will eventually have this. This is what we want, right? But what if the way you're raising your kids never allows them to have this? What if they never get to this because of what you did or didn't do? What if because of the way we're raising our kids that this is what they experience? This idea of divorce, when I was growing up, was rare. We heard about the people outside of the church that had it. But now it's happening all the time. I love listening to smart people. So Einstein said, "I fear the day that technology will surpass our human interaction. The world will have a generation of idiots." Now we're Coptic, and so that's not true, right? We're not going to be idiots. But we could be prey. We actually definitely are prey. And every time I see this picture, it really strikes a chord with me. First of all, I don't know how they even got a wolf to wear that costume and take the picture and stand in the bunch of the middle of the sheep, but I think it's a great picture. But the purpose of it is what? You would invite a sheep into your home, possibly, but you would not invite the wolf. I can't tell you how many times we have allowed the wolf to come and sit right next to us. The wolf is inside our house, and it is attacking us more than you believe. And if you really think about it, what you are allowing to come into your home will shock you. But this should not shock you. Satan hates your family. He hates family in general, and he is doing an awesome job at ruining family. It's a great quote. This is a tactic that Satan is using. Whoever captures the kids owns the future, says a lesbian journalist. Like, this is the agenda. That if we can get the kids on our mentality, if we can get them to accept the homosexuality and the transgender and all this tolerance, if we can do that while they're young, we've got them for life, right? You know that. That's not new. But that's their agenda. That's Satan's agenda. I think this is an awesome quote. All that is necessary for the triumph of evil is that good men and women do nothing. Like Christian parents, don't do anything more, and Satan will win. I promise you, if you are not doing anything more, evil will triumph. So my question is, who really is raising our kids? I want to ask you, what do you think is the average time a teenager spends on media a day? Average time a teenager spends on media per day. Four hours. 6 hours. Can I get an 8? Can I get a 9? 9 hours. You're like, what? 9 hours? What is recommended by the Academy of Pediatrics for children? I mean, this is a fairly trusted organization. No more than 2. And if they're under the age of 2, 0. Now, you're saying my kid does not spend 9 hours at a time. There's only 24 hours in a day. Well, you know what? We're great parents. We teach our kids how to be efficient. And so our kids are very efficient. They can actually pack 10 hours of media into 7.5 hours of their day. They're so good. That was in 2010. But does this seem strange? Have you seen, forget a kid, have you seen your spouse or done this yourself where the TV is on and the phone is on? You're double timing. Right? You're getting both. And then if you have headphones in your ears while you've got a phone, in front of you and a TV in the corner, 3 hours. You've done it. You guys are awesome. You guys can be a lot going into our minds. Now, I love this other study, and this would never have happened. We would not be, my generation would not be where we are if this was happening to us. That the kids now can study an average of 6 minutes before they go to media. 6 minutes? Could you imagine what they will become? I don't know if you've seen that. Now, I don't know how you guys did it, but this church was really quiet during the liturgy. And I know there are kids because I saw them in communion. I don't know how you got them to be in this liturgy for 2 hours and not make noise, and 6 minutes they can't study. But here's something, because this is important not for the kids, this is something important for you as parents. They did a study of about 6,000 people, and they were examining the thoughts of the kids towards the parents. And it said that 54% of the kids thought that their parents were looking at their devices too often. Half of kids say, my parents are looking at their devices way too often. Now, we might say it's for work. I have to. It doesn't matter what your intention is in using it. Because the next statistic is scary. That almost a third of kids feel driving in the front, kids are in the back, mom's on the phone. Or dad's on the phone, looking at Facebook or whatever. Mom, you want to know who's the most annoyed person in the car? The person driving, who's not looking at the media, who's saying, could you answer my kids? Stop looking at your phone because you're ignoring them. And as much as it hurts the kids, because the kids can sleep in the back, you want to know who can't sleep? Is the driver. And how much you ignore them. If you're driving for an hour and you're on your phone for an hour, you've made that person feel less important than the life-saving posts on Facebook. Anyone receive one of those life-saving, oh my gosh, now my life is complete. I read something on Facebook, it changed my life. It's the message you give to the people around you. Half of parents agree that their devices are being checked too frequently. 28% of the parents felt that their device use did not set a good example for their kids. I don't know how recent this study is. How many of us feel as though if our kids were using their media as much as we are, we'd be so proud of them. And 25% of parents want their children to use their devices less. And I wonder if this has become the definition of quality time, where everyone's on a phone, everyone's on front of a TV. So are our kids addicted to media? So there is an awesome study. I love this study. Some lady thought it would be harmless. So she got 68 kids from 12 to 18. They voluntarily said for 8 hours we will not use any electronic devices. They couldn't communicate. They just had to be by themselves for 8 hours. They had a room. They could read, they could write, they could play, they could cook, they could do all kinds of things, but for 8 hours they could not use media. And so the idea was just to see, how dependent they were. So, in case of excessive anxiety or stress, the leaders of the project, they could terminate it so that your kid didn't die during the 8 hours. How well do you think the kids did? Shocking. 3 out of 68 made it to the end. 3 out of 68 could go 8 hours. That's not the funny part. This is. 3 of them had suicidal thoughts because they did not have their devices. 5 had intense panic attacks. 27 had nausea, sweating, dizziness, hot flushes. Really? And abdominal pain. They developed irritable bowel syndrome by not having their media within a few hours. And you want to know when the symptoms really hit hard? At 2 hours and 3 hours. Like they made it all the way. At first, it's like, oh, it's kind of cool. I can do this. They could have slept. Actually, they couldn't even sleep. You want to know why? They had so much anxiety about their phone and what they were missing out on. These kids were stressed without their phone. How sad is that? So, what's interesting is the 3 that did pass, one of them, they had to write a journal and tell the experience the next day. It was 1 female and 2 boys. The female, she made it, wow, hero, right? She wrote in her journal her physical symptoms, and the psychiatrist who read it, she felt the symptoms herself after reading that journal. So that girl barely made it. 2 boys, God bless them. One of them built a model, one of them organized his stuff. Our kids are so addicted, and I'm not going to go into all of that. Pokemon Go? Anyone? You heard about it? Had you invested in Pokemon Go, you would have been set. They make millions a day. Do you know how much our kids are spending time on Pokemon Go? Average time per day. 33 minutes. It's exceeding Facebook. Now, it's good, right? They're actually going out and walking. I just have a question. If Pokemon came out with a Bible, would our kids obey that one more than ours? See, anything that controls their mind has to worry you. They're willing to, there's actually accidents that are happening because people have Pokemon Go. They're walking into the street looking for a Pokemon and getting hit by cars. They're mesmerized, they're controlled, they're enslaved. And I thought Facebook was good. All right, so what is the average amount of discussions, like meaningful discussions a parent will have with their teenager in a whole week? Pokemon was how many minutes a day? 33 minutes. How many meaningful minutes of conversation is going on in a week? The average, without a phone, without things in their ear, like there's like almost eye contact, almost, kind of. They're looking in the direction. 3.5 minutes. 3.5 minutes. Who's winning the war in the family? Are you guys winning the war? Most of us may not have admitted it, but if you think about it, we're losing. How long are you willing to let Satan be the head of the household? So who should be protecting your kids? That's a no-brainer, right? Like, why would anyone protect my kids more than me? So what kind of rules do you have for technology in your house? This is one that you can just get on the internet. It's not the perfect set, but it says in this house, technology is a privilege, not a right. So your kid can't demand time on the iPad. They can't demand it. They can earn it. It must be parent approved. We value people more than technology. That one might be like probably the most important thing. Some of the Chick-fil-A restaurants, they're doing this incredible thing. I don't know anyone in the area that's doing it, but I was reading about it. They now have this box in the front by the cashiers that if you walk in and your family puts in their cell phones during their meal and they actually talk to each other, they get free ice cream. Chick-fil-A is trying to get people to talk to the people they're related to. How ridiculous that we have to go that far because we haven't set a rule for our technology. There should never be technology behind closed doors. A kid should not have his own phone in his room or his own video game console in his room. I don't know how many people have an Xbox or something, but those can access the internet just like a cell phone can. And most parents don't realize that. They think, oh, my kid's playing video games. I don't know if you've seen any of those video games. They're not like Coptic Martyr video games. They're bad. And I remember going to a youth retreat, and the kids were saying, yeah, I could stay up all night. For 24 hours, I could play video games. They're being mesmerized and enslaved by it. So, dinner table, no technology. Just cut it out. Spend dinner actually eating dinner. When you say turn it off, it's not a negotiation. If you break it, Mom and Dad go buy another one? No. How many of you have actually told your kids, you break it again, after 4 times, I'm not going to buy you another one? Right? So what do you decide? How do you decide what your kids watch on TV? How do you decide? What kind of boundaries should you set for TV use? Any ideas? Ratings? Good. So, okay, so but that's like movies. So what about regular TV? Have you heard of Common Sense Media or Plugged In? These are apps. You can look them up online or whatever. You know, we watched Jungle Book the other day. I put it in on Plugged In, and it'll tell you, you know, how many bad words there are. Are there any, it'll tell you which words, it'll tell you, are there any positive messages, are there negative messages, is there violence, is there nudity, it'll tell you all those things. You can decide, should your kid watch that? You can make a choice before you allow your kid. We accidentally did this one time. We went to go see, I think it was a superheroes movie or whatever. We're like, okay, they're going to see violence, they're going to see heroes killing heroes. Okay, we were okay with that. What we were not okay with were the previews of the other movies that happened. And I was shocked. And I felt terrible that we took our kids to see one movie, but they were exposed to horror, like it was like a horror movie, like a scary movie. And they were like, it's like, why? Those things get attached to their memory. I bought this thing this week. I haven't applied it yet. It's called TV Guardian. How many of your kids like to watch cooking shows? My girls are obsessed with cooking shows. And they can't cook. And they're not learning how to cook, but they're entertaining. But they try to bleep out the bad words, but they don't get them all. And so, they, you know, the person's on the side saying, like, they're hearing bad words. Let's say you got a movie or whatever, and there's no commercials. You're like, okay, but there's bad words. TV Guardian actually blocks out bad words before it comes on the screen. It cost me, I don't know, $80, $90, whatever. But it's supposed to be 99% accurate. So here's an idea. What if you watch shows that are pre-recorded? What would be the purpose of pre-recording the shows that your kids watch? No commercials. I love Carl's Jr. burgers. They're awesome burgers. Their commercials are horrible. None of those burgers come with the woman, right? And so get rid of the woman because it's false advertisement. What they will see during a Super Bowl commercial or an NBA playoffs commercial, so we start the game 20, 30 minutes into it. It's okay if you miss the commercials. If you want to watch the sports, at least pre-record. As much as you can, get rid of. You could watch it yourself, but then that means you might be watching twice as much TV as your children, which would be tough. So look at your app. Do you know that you can put a parental control on your TV? How many of you guys have Dish Network? Not out here in LA? All right. Well, there's got to be something out here where on ours we have Dish, and if you scroll through to like 500 something, it's all the porn channels. They're there until you call the cable company and have them removed or blocked. Are you guys with your kids every moment they're watching TV? Most of them know how to use a remote really well. I don't know how many times they grab the remote from me, Dad, let me do it for you. Could they stumble on those channels? Well, why would we let it sit there? Why would we just let it sit on the TV and not do anything about it? A lot of the remotes have parental controls, or call the company and say, I do not want this to be accessed ever. I want it blocked, and you are responsible, not your kids. Remember the wolf. No TV during meals. Finish your homework first. Do your chores first. That's crazy. Now, there's something that I was just randomly looking up on the internet, and I thought this was helpful. No, so sorry, this is what the Common Sense app looks like. Here is Jungle Book. You can look it up and it'll tell you what's good about it. You just type in the name. You could set it for a certain age. What are things that are appropriate for this age to watch? Common Sense Media, it's a free app, same as Plugged In. Plugged In is a great one. But I was just looking up 101 things to do instead of watch TV. You could read a book, you can walk around the neighborhood, you can journal, make a yummy smoothie. I did not highlight in red, but I think it's very noble. Get rid of something. Don't start in the women's closet, but work your way there. Do useful things. Take a picture, call someone, send a note, make something from a Pinterest board. I don't have the skills to do that, or bake something, but look at all the things. This is 17 of the 101, and I found 10 different lists. What if your kids say, well, we're bored, what can we do? Why don't you print out the list? You look it up yourself. 101 things to do instead of watch TV. Let your kids cross them off and say, this is what you can do instead of watching TV, because our rule is no TV during the week. No TV during the week. So find something else. What an incredible idea. That was TV. And TV was a problem when we were young. I grew up watching hours of TV, and I'm okay. Not terrible. But TV is nothing compared to the internet. Our kids are totally connected to the internet. 37% of 3 to 4-year-olds know how to use an iPad. By the time they're 6 to 7, almost all kids know how to use the internet. Almost all of them. I don't know how many times I've seen it where a kid has an iPad while we're at the servants' meeting. So we're at the servants' meeting, and the kid has an unrestricted iPad. That's dangerous, and I'll tell you why in a minute. 67% of 3 to 9-year-olds. So how many of you have kids in this age? I mean, this is mainly for you. 35% are reported to have gone to pornography sites. Like, what? So I have a friend. He said, yeah, my kid, he likes trucks. So he was just on YouTube looking at trucks, whatever, watching videos of trucks, and the next video was not just about trucks. Another friend, she has a 6-year-old son. He likes Minecraft. You know what Minecraft is? Like the video game that everyone plays, right? So he was on YouTube looking up things about Minecraft, some character or hero or how to get to a level. And then he found a bad video about Minecraft. Minecraft, it's a decent game, but the kids are innocently finding these things. Whose fault is that? They did a global survey of 19,000 parents, and they said, yeah, 6-year-olds are accessing pornography. So, what is the average age of internet exposure to pornography? What do you think? Average age? $13, 10, 7, 8. So, the presentation that I heard, it was 8 to 9. I'm trying not to scare you too much. 9 to 11. But let's just say 9 is the average age a child is exposed. Think about that. 9 years old? But see, that's just the average. Our kids are above average, right? So maybe our kids, because they're smart and using all these devices, can find it even sooner. So do you think your kids are immune or too young? I mean, good Christian kids. You guys go to a Coptic church. I have a confession. I was a pretty good kid. I don't know if you can believe that, those of you who know me. But yeah, I was a good kid. I was valedictorian in my junior high class. I went to the church. I knew Bible verses left and right. I was that model kid. I went to spend the night at my friend's house. He was also a good kid, but his older cousin, who was 19, who bought the Playboy magazine, wasn't. And so my 13-year-old didn't buy the magazine, but his older cousin gave it to him, and I was exposed when I was 13, and I was a good Christian kid. Hopefully your kids are much better than I was, but thank God I was not born in the age of internet, because no one had the courage to go buy a magazine. But what if your kids are exposed? That was at the age of 13, and I'll tell you, if you've been in America in the last 20 years, and you've had a computer or a cell phone, you've been exposed. I don't ask males anymore, not, have you ever seen porn? I ask them, what age were you exposed? Most of them will say junior high. Most parents have no idea that that happened. That was when it was hard. What about now when it's so easy? So you say, my kid is 9, my kid is 8, and they go to a Christian school, and they have Christian friends. Christian friends' parents don't have filters on their internet at their house, and those kids accidentally found something, or their older brother or sibling or cousin or friend down their street saw it and showed it to that kid at a church in Hemet, right? Like these kids like recently from Egypt, okay? Junior high kid is like, yeah, I was at school, he had a phone, my friend says, hey, can I see your phone? I want to look up my grades. He grabs his phone, within a minute he puts a pornographic picture on it. He didn't ask him, he didn't tell him, he just put it on there. Of course, the kid, thank God, was an innocent kid, told the principal, and that kid got kicked out. But it could happen. Don't think your kids are immune. 91% of exposure by a teen was accidental. It's accidental. They're not searching for the porn is searching for them. 91% of it was accidental. Innocent kids stumbling on it. But this is the thing that you should know. 90% of 8 to 16-year-olds have viewed it already. Let me tell you to do one thing. Go ask your kids. Go ask your kids, has anyone ever showed you a picture of someone that's naked? Go ask them. If they have their own email account, do you know how many billions of emails that are sent a day that are pornographic? Some of you are getting a little bit edgy and you're a little bit scared. I'm sorry, but that's my intention. Even Steve Jobs says, don't let your kids use iPads. I want this to burn in your mind. Your kids are one click away from a spiral downward path that they could be enslaved for the rest of their life. When I was at this conference, every speaker had been addicted, right? These are like PhDs and like pastors, like they'd all been addicted. None of them were planning on it, but it just happened that the first time they saw something, they weren't sure how to feel about it. It was confusing but enticing. Then they found out one more image and they looked at it one more time. By then, they know, do we talk about it in church? No, we don't mention the word pornography at church, so it must be terrible. But I've seen it and I like it, so now what are they going to think about me if I tell someone? What if I tell my parents? Let me not tell anyone. Let me not tell my friends. What should I do? I like it. I'm going to hide it. How many times do you have to see it before you are gone? Ask. Just ask kids. You know, one of the youth, I was at a retreat, this was 7, 8 years ago. When we were young, someone had to have the courage to go buy a magazine or had someone older that could. But now what is he says, you know what? I can't escape it. It follows me everywhere I go. It's in my pocket. I can't get away from it. And it's not hard. At that youth meeting that I was giving on pornography, the kids were saying, yeah, I went to go visit UCLA, and in the library, open access to pornography. Like the kids, one's doing their report, and one is looking at pornography. You just walk in the library and access, because it's a county school, you can do whatever you want. So they're going to be exposed. But this concept, what an innocent child. How quickly it gets stolen. One click away. Did you know that 25% of all internet searches are pornography? 1 out of 4? You know that 35% of all downloads, 1/3 of every download on the internet is pornography. And that if you do not talk to your kids about sex, Dr. Google will. Most of your kids are smart. They know how to spell sex. So let's say they have a question about sex. Do they do what you do? What is the Christian view of sex? What does the Coptic Church say about this? No, they just write sex. What does this mean? Oh. So funny. I was telling you about the internet, how it's accidental. In Michigan, they get a lot of newcomers from Egypt. So this was years ago. So they're trying to educate the newcomers on how to use the internet. So it was around Christmas time. And, okay, well, let's teach them how to search for things. So they searched for the word toys. Fairly innocent, you'd think. But it wasn't so innocent. You can imagine the amount of adult toys that showed up. How many of your kids can spell the word toys? The largest consumer population, 72% of people consuming pornography is 12 to 17-year-olds. 72%. It's a bait. And, you know, it's amazing. I love Steve Curry. I love the Golden State Warriors. I'm on ESPN. I was reading about Steph Curry almost every day. But if you look around, all the pictures of things that if you click on them could take you into something, it's dangerous. Looking at ESPN is not bad most of the time. But looking at everything else linked to ESPN is. So these are just percentage. I'll talk about more of this on the talk on pornography on Thursday. But is pornography a male problem only? When I was growing up, it was. How many of pornographic users do you think are women? What percentage? You're like 0.4%? A third. A third of all pornographic seekers are women. I mean, the numbers are staggering. When you look at 18 to 30-year-olds that have watched porn in the last month, 76%. 76% of 18 to 30-year-old females. It's a bigger issue. Just briefly, who are the holiest people in the church? 50 to 68-year-old females. Just so you know. Tetas, God bless them, may they never leave our church. So, just so you're aware, by the age of 18, what your kids will have seen with pornography. Same gender sex. You're like, that's disgusting. Group sex. They will have seen it. Have you talked to them about it? So how's it being accessed? Computers, tablets, smartphones. I don't know if people use computers that much anymore. I think everyone does everything on their phone. Tablets, definitely. But video gaming systems, don't forget that. All right, I'm going to try and move forward. But with the advent of the computer, the delivery system for this addictive stimulus has become nearly resistance-free. It is as though we have devised a form of heroin 100 times more powerful than before, usable in the privacy of one's own home, injected directly into the brain. through the eyes. It's now available in unlimited supply via self-replicating distribution network, glorified as art and protected by the Constitution. So the question is, not if your kids see pornography, the question is when they see pornography, will they be prepared? So I'm going to tell you a story of someone that their kid did well in school, junior high kid. So they wanted to reward them, so they got them strippers. And you're like, oh, jeez, like 3 strippers. And they actually got to come to the home. And they said, you know what? You get to have them in your room. Close the door. They're yours. Not once, as much as you want. You're like, Mark, that's ridiculous. How many of us have gotten our kids an unrestricted cell phone? You're like, I would never buy my kid a stripper, or 2 or 3 or 100 or 1,000, and let them be in their room every day for hours. How many of us reward our kids? My kids, they deserve a cell phone, an unrestricted cell phone. That is a terrible reward for a good behavior. We did that. Break that mentality of, I need to give them more stuff because they deserve it. The phones that they have, are you aware of the apps that are on there? So maybe you've heard of Tinder. You know what Snapchat is? What is Snapchat? You take a picture of yourself, you send it to someone, and it disappears after 10 seconds. If they don't screenshot it. So what is this used for? Sending naked pictures of yourself. Naked selfies. Hey, it's going to disappear in 10 seconds, right? Unless they screenshot it. Tinder is like you can find people around you. There's the bullying apps. But the thing that really blew me away are the deceptive apps. That looks like a calculator. Every Coptic parent wants their kids to have a calculator on their phone. You want them to be good at math. These apps are used to hide text messages and to hide photos and to hide information. So when you look at their phone, it looks like, oh, my kid has a calculator on their phone. That's great. Are you aware of what your kids could do to be hiding from you? You have to be aware, and you have to restrict their phones. I'm going to talk about sexting, and then I'm going to give you the practical part. 40% of all teenagers have sent or received sexts. Sexual images that are sent by text. 40%. That's crazy. And who's going to see the text? 17% of them share them if they want. 55% will share with more than one person. Have you heard of revenge porn? This whole sexting thing is terrible. But what happens often is that a boyfriend will ask, or a boy who's interested in a girl, will you send me a naked picture of yourself? Well, it's really hard for her to get the attention of boys now because all of them are addicted to porn. And they don't talk to the girls as much now unless they send them a picture. So they get the picture, okay, we can be boyfriend and girlfriend. What happens? They break up. He's got the picture on his phone. What does he do? He shares it. They also use it as currency. Guys can swap pictures of the girls that they go to school with. This was a major issue in, I think in the Virginia area, where a 13-year-old shared a picture with her boyfriend. He shared it with another girl, and 2 other girls ganged up on the other one. They posted it. It went online. It went all over. Well, guess what? Sharing those things are a federal crime. Because now what are you doing? You're sharing child pornography. It happened again in another area, I think in Ohio, but the girl whose stuff was distributed, she committed suicide. But you can imagine the devastation. But it's such a big topic. The sexting is just, I was just talking to my sister-in-law. She's like, oh yeah, they were having this problem at this church and another church. These are Coptic churches they're talking about. 2 Coptic churches are saying, yeah, the teens have this problem. So it's not happening outside the church, it's happening inside. Those are just the two churches she was aware of. 40%. Are our kids so different than everybody else? You should not give a child a cell phone without having a contract in place. These are awesome rules that you should look at yourself. I'm not going to go into that. There's copies you guys have received. You can do your own. But this was the thing that really got me. Someone posted this. There's a bracelet. Fight the new drug. The new drug is porn. They posted this article, Sex Before Kissing, how 15-year-old girls are dealing with porn-addicted boys. See, my girl would never send a picture. They're being pressured so much. They can't get the attention of boys because they're looking at thousands of models or whatever, pictures that have been changed, and they're addicted. So in order to feel liked or loved, they feel pressured, or they're feeling pressured to. If you read the article, one of the boys says, well, if you give me oral sex, then I'll kiss you. So sex is becoming before kissing. There's an app where you can just meet with people and go and have sex in an area, no questions asked. You just go and you just go your separate ways. Sex has just become casual. And the way boys are looking at girls is horrible. All right. So what should you as parents and servants do? You have to draw a line in the sand. How much do your kids mean to you? They should mean everything to you. You have to be the guardians of their purity. Don't wait for anyone else. As much as you can in your house, you have to make that commitment, and don't compromise, and don't say they're going to miss out. Trust me, they'll get it. So in order to do this, the change has to begin with you. Gandhi said this, be the change that you want to see. If you show that your cell phone is so important to you, your kids cannot wait to have one. They cannot wait to have access to Facebook. They cannot wait to do all the things that you do. And our kids are doing it a lot earlier than when we were young. You have to decide, are you willing to filter your house? Are you allowing certain things in your house for your own pleasure? What if you watched less? What if you, as an adult, were exposed to less? So, these are my objectives. You have 2 pieces of paper. One of them is a contract. It's the Passion for Purity Project, or some churches are calling it Houses of Purity Project. After we came back from that conference, me and Abuna Bulazbati, we spoke to the priests, and we said our goal is every Coptic home should have an internet filter. Every home should have an internet filter to block out pornography. It's very easy to do. So we developed an IT group that they're discussing how we can deliver this information to everyone. We're thinking about making our own videos and this and that. And I said, I looked it up last night. We don't need to make our own videos. This is what is recommended. There's a few options. OpenDNS. Just look up OpenDNS. What it is it goes on your modem. So any internet that comes into your house is blocked before it goes to the rest of the house. And it's totally free. And you look up on YouTube how to install it. It's a 4-minute video, and it tells you use this router, and that's how you do it. So that is good. You will or will not like it. But you need to have a filter. Don't let your kids accidentally find something that will take them away. The other thing is Covenant Eyes. Covenant Eyes is a Christian organization. They've created all types of filtering software for your internet, for your computer, for your phones, everything. It's not perfect. So just so you know, you cannot block everything all the time. but this is important. While your kids are young, you can do what you can. So covenant eyes, you have your devices. Away, then what? Then they're not protected. So then you should guard every phone. You should set up parental controls. And if you go to Covenant Eyes YouTube channel, look up Covenant Eyes YouTube channel. They have videos on how to protect your iPhones, your iPads, your Androids, your Google searches, and then what I'm going to say is YouTube. YouTube, everyone should take out their phone today, go to the 3 buttons on the top, go to settings, and put restrict. Like, don't just allow your kids to look up YouTube stuff without blocking it. That is going to take you 30 seconds. Block YouTube, or install YouTube Kids, or remove it from their iPad.